And today we have invited back again by popular demand Elza Maalouf and Said Dawlabani to talk to us about the present situation in the Middle East and Europe and maybe some other stuff too. And the title for our conversation is Crisis and Possibilities. But before we start, some words about us and the Wisdom Factory, which is hosting this show. We are a non-profit Paradiso Integrale in Umbria, Italy. We also offer retreats and guest rooms, and we just try to crank up business any way we can. And we are deeply inspired by the work of Ken Wilber and the Integral Worldview, and with a growing respect for the spiral dynamics of Don Beck and Claire Graves, which has helped us to understand so much about literally everything and also why it doesn't work. The Wisdom Factory, we desire to give to all of you the opportunity to experience what people create inside this worldview and how we can collaborate to create a better world. Find out more about us on our main website, thepowerofrelationship.com.
And if you want to be informed about our events and what we are doing, please subscribe to the Wisdom Factory DE, and you will get our newsletter and also free gift, which at the moment is the iBook about politics, about some of the events we have done before, and there's also video excerpts and text. And this everything will be sooner or later in an iBook. The next one is coming out very soon, where there is the contribution of Said and Elza already. It will be in a week or two. Okay.
Now,
some words about our guests?
Yes. Ladies first, Elza Maalouf, hello. Hello. She is credited with introducing spiral dynamics integral and the entire integral framework to the Middle East. Her writings appear in the Huffington Post, ILR, Cosmos Journal. Her recent book, Emerge, serves as a map for the future of the Middle East and has garnered great reviews. Her work with cultures and organizations has gained the admiration of business and political leaders alike. She's currently working on the Arab Mimome project, which maps the memetics of the Middle East that will eventually pave the way for peaceful emergence in the region. And she is here today with her husband, Said Dawlabani. He is a cultural economist, an author, a public speaker. His most recent book, Memenomics, has been compared to the works of Peter Lynch and Warren Buffett. And he is a leading authority in the applications of the value system framework to evolutionary economics and corporate change. He's also the COO of the Center for Human Emergence, Middle East, a think tank which frames the socio-political challenges facing the region through the prism of peace through human development, a sustainability project for a prosperous and peaceful Middle East. I had to read that, I'm sorry, because I couldn't memorize it all.
Mark, I don't know where you found that, but that is wonderful. That's the most recent iteration of our bios, and you found it somewhere. We don't know. It's wonderful.
I will send it to you if you need it. Okay.
Okay, and then we have here in the green room two other guests, Scott Marshall, who is an integral. A lot of the pictures in the books I'm doing, and and also the one piece drawing of G's, and I think we will talk about that.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Oh, friend of Said, and if you want to introduce you a moment.
You dropped out a little there. Heidi, you dropped out a little there.
Okay, begin if you can hear us. We seem to be frozen. You just begin and try to adjust a little bit.
And Neri, my friend in Tel Aviv.
The situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
The indigenous intelligence on the ground in Tel Aviv.
Great.
Is there any from?
See you all.
Hello, Neri.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think guys should just go ahead and just start talking because it looks like Heidi and Mark need to come out and come back in again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're having problems on this end too. Whenever it rains in San Diego, we have bad connections. So I think a good place to start is reflections and feedback on an article that Elza and I wrote just about last week that's been published in the Huffington Post. And it really frames the history of the modern Middle East since oil has been discovered and since
The embargo.
since the end of World War II, and whose interest is it in to keep the region weak. And I am shocked, not just surprised, I'm shocked at the level of reactions that the article has gotten. It has been shared over 500 times. It has gotten more than 1,000 different, likes. It is. We've never gotten anything. if we do articles from an analytical perspective on what the region needs, you get a little bit of feedback. But if you hint towards a conspiracy theory, everybody comes out of the woodwork. The Russians, the conspiracy theorists, the the hawks in here out in the States, and so I just want to. To sort of frame the discussion, it really is the greater powers that determine whether peace happens in the Middle East or not.
Yeah.
It is so much related to oil prices. It is so much related to arms sales and regional dominance than it is a Sunni Shia struggle.
It is a struggle for power rather than a struggle of value systems. Who wants to dominate the region and who wants to who's the underdog in the region and who wants to dominate the region?
Yeah. Well, since Mark, jump in any time. I don't know if you're. We can't.
Yeah,
we can't.
we're in again on another computer also. and I have heard some of what you've said, but not all. But I guess, Elza, you just said that this is not anything
It's not
other
a clash of value systems. It's who wants to dominate the region.
Yeah.
So the value systems of all the parties are more or less par on the same level.
Yeah, it's centered it's centered in red and with some unhealthy blue.
Yeah.
It's and the predominant driving force behind the West is to divide and conquer. Really, they see that the region is emerging from red to blue, and their efforts are to fuel the different red factions that are fighting. So the region never gets to a blue that says we're strong nations.
Yeah.
And that is a sad testament to the values of the West, who keep manipulating the region to exploit them for economic reasons, nothing else, for selling arms, for making sure that oil prices stay high, so the the corporations or the oligarchs in Russia can get their way.
Yeah.
So we're back to Cold War, basically.
Yeah. So we have proxy wars.
Yes.
It's where we're back where we were in the 70s, in the 80s. It's really sad.
Mm.
But it explains why the price of gas is starting to go up, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a futile attempt, Mark. The dynamics have changed considerably because oil markets, the U.S. within a few years is going to be oil independent. 10 years ago, we were the largest consumers of oil in the world, and the shale production now is just flooding the market, meaning that Putin is relying on tools that are outdated. You can't throw a war and expect the price of oil to go up to 150 barrels. And so he's going to be proven wrong on that front. We were having a conversation. Go ahead, Mark.
You said Putin is gambling on the wrong horse in this case.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. So I don't think that is a mechanism that will raise oil prices much higher than maybe another 10% from where they are now. He's never going to see the $110, $120 a barrel that has fueled his power. Elza and I were having a conversation earlier about the engagement of Russia in Syria. This is, what do you say? This is going to be, this is his Iraq.
Yes. Syria is going to be divided in 3 sections. A Sunni section, and the section of semi-autonomous Kurdistan, and the Shia section, the Alawite. So, and we have the Shia Crescent from Bahrain to Yemen, Iran, the Shia in southern Syria. No, Shia in southern Syria, and the Shia on the Mediterranean in Syria. And then we have Hezbollah, who's an Arab entity of the Shia. So we have a Shia Crescent from Yemen, the Houthis, to the Bahrainis, to Iran, the Alawite in Syria, and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Okay.
And Neri is asking a question: how does Lebanon play in this? Well, as you know, Neri, Lebanon is the primary power broker in the whole region, right? Everybody's occupied that poor place.
Neri, if you want to come in, you just unmute yourself on the top, and you go with your cursor on the top, and then talk. Okay? And Scott, for you too.
Thank you. I have some connection with Lebanese friends that live in Lebanon, and from their Facebook, I sense some kind of tension. They are Christians. I think they are in the Zakhle area, and they have some tension there. It's like something happening, and I not really see clearly through Facebook what's going on. So this is where my question comes from.
The Islamic State is in Arsal.
20 miles away. Zakhle is the largest Catholic city in the Middle East. That's where Elza and I come from, and so they have absolute legitimate concerns. I mean, their concerns are definitely not unfounded.
And funny enough, Hezbollah is keeping ISIL, the Islamic State, away from everything.
Yeah.
They're fighting. They're fighting with the Islamic State.
Hezbollah is, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Hezbollah.
And so far, Mark, Lebanon has taken the highest number of refugees per capita. Turkey has taken on almost 2 million Syrians. Lebanon has taken on 1.9, but Lebanon's population is 4 million people. So now 1 out of every 5 people in Lebanon is a Syrian refugee. And it is taxing every possible resource that Lebanon has. Although the UN is helping, although there are other resources that are coming in, the Bekaa Valley used to be the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. Well, the Bekaa Valley is still that, except now there is no planting anymore. It's tents. These are tents that are occupied by Syrian refugees, and the local politicians, because they're they're accepting from every sect, from every possible walk of life, are accepting bribes to allow this to happen. The tremendous pressure that this is building on Lebanon as a society is enormous, and no one's talking about it.
And you know what? We here have applied to get some refugees, and our mayor at the little city we are living on says no, he doesn't want any. We are too small. No refugees altogether. We cannot. So we keep the people out, for to maintain the idea that everything is like all the time, that nothing has changed. And to hear that 4 million people take on 2 million people.
Well, it goes along with the underlying Syrian belief that Lebanon was always a part of Syria. So why shouldn't they?
It's part of the bomb.
Well, it's not quite. Every part was a part of some other part. So,
Yes, exactly.
Historical period.
The underlying question, I think, that very few news organizations have been able to answer is why are the Syrians leaving in such big droves, and why is Assad bombing his own people? Well, the answer to both of these is that Assad belongs to a very small minority. The Alawites are under 20%. Those are the Shia sect that the Assad family belongs to. They're under 20%, and they have been trying to control a culture that is primarily
Sunni.
Yeah, primarily Sunni. There is a minority of Christians, lots of Christians in Syria, but the Arab awakening in the Middle East has awakened the fact that it doesn't matter if you're Sunni and you're being repressed by a minority. It doesn't matter that they do it under the guise of this is a nationalistic Syrian value. If you're repressed by someone that is non-Sunni, you are being repressed. And so ISIS spoke to that. ISIL spoke to that, and so it's creating all these problems. And Assad's answer to it is that you give in to my dictatorship will, or you will be killed. And that's why they're leaving in droves. They're disobeying Assad, and he just doesn't know how to react to it. So he sends his Alawite pilots to bomb every city into smithereens, and it's very, very sad. I mean, this is, when we describe the red feudalistic heroic value system, that it leaves a scorched earth behind. This is it. Assad is leaving a scorched earth behind.
It's horrible. Yeah. I read a survey that they did in Germany about Syrian refugees, and they said 70% are fleeing not from ISIS but from the current regime.
From Assad.
Yeah, and that only 8% of these people want to remain in Europe, and the others want to go home, but not as long as this Assad is on the lead. So it was very interesting to hear that.
The good thing about Assad is that the Assad family has been a dictator from the time his dad came into office. His dad was brutal. His dad championed the Arab character as a heroic character. And when the reins were handed over to the younger Assad, I mean, he's a doctor. He's cognitively, he has the intelligence enough to become a doctor, but to transition the Syrian culture from a dictatorship to an autocracy that needs to slowly emerge into a form of initial stages of democracy, and Elza can talk more about this. He just didn't have the capacities to do it. I mean, Elza experienced it firsthand.
In 2007.
Yeah.
I went to Dar'a, the epicenter of the revolution, and I saw the governor is the second in command after someone.
Yeah.
So I wondered why the second in command, he has two PhDs from the Sorbonne, and he's here in Dar'a. I figured that from Jordan they're smuggling arms, and Anna Caspari was with me. Do you know Anna Caspari?
Yeah, we know him.
Yeah. So she showed me how the blades of wheat are so small. It's because of global warming. They're very small. So the epicenter of the Syrian revolution started from Dar'a, because they wanted bread. They wanted the basic necessities in life. But they couldn't get it.
And it's
an unspoken cause of the unrest. Just very recently, I started hearing people saying that this prolonged drought was so central to what point it was the revolution.
Yeah, definitely.
well, not only in Egypt, Mark, but also not only in Syria, but also in Egypt. The whole uprising in Egypt started when Mubarak's government decided to stop subsidies of sugar and flour.
Yeah.
These are subsidies that people who are living on $2 a day, which was 80% of the Egyptian population in the rural areas, they were living on $2 a day, and the subsidy was for
Yes, 50 cents a day.
the subsidies were for bread, and they removed that subsidies. And when you have very little to lose and you lose it, what else do you have left? So it's addressing when 80% of your population is below the poverty line, and then you remove the last elements they have to survive. There's nothing left but revolution. And so that speaks to the problem of corruption. We here in the States give almost $3 billion a year in aid to Egypt, and you go to Cairo, and half of the city is owned by officers in the Egyptian army. That's where our aid is going, is to help these people become rich, to help the corrupt become more established as the oligarchs, and none of it was going into developing people to get them out of that $2 a day poverty line.
Now, Asisi is different. He's trying to create the institutions that are appropriate for the Egyptian people. And he's having a lot of problems with corruption, bribes, we call it wasta. He needs to clean all the institutions from old corrupt money.
And how difficult that is. We are living here in Italy, and corruption is still.
Absolutely. Yeah.
God, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just going to ask about, because before on the Wisdom Factory, we talked. I was listening to a lot of talking about building blue and the blue system.
Yeah.
And we're talking about corruption. I was just wondering, how did the blue system get so corrupt? What were the
The center of gravity in Egypt is now red and unhealthy blue. So what Asisi is trying to do is to create the healthy blue, the healthy institutions, the healthy, what else?
Anything that has to do with the blue system, Scott, is being built from the ground up. It never existed.
Yeah.
Under 500 years of Ottoman rule, they ruled with an iron fist. They allowed local, regional, what they call them, the wali. They allowed them to rule as long as, they allowed them to still have diversity in religion and whatever they do, as long as they were kept quiet, as long as they paid their taxes. That is a red system. The Turks exploited the heck out of the entire Middle East for 500 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And you get the liberals and the greenies in the West saying it's the colonial era that lasted less than 30 years, and they blame all the repression of 500 years on those poor colonials. Like I said in an email to someone, you know, those colonials are the only people who built the hospital that I was born in Lebanon, the court where the papers were filed when I was born, and the school that I went to up to the age of 14. I mean, you know, without that, it's just, you know, the blame is directed in the wrong way, and the place had never had the blue system that what we consider where power is vested in the institution, not in the local hero. The Middle East still has a long way to go before it gets there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what could we do now? I mean, I know from Germany they take a lot of refugees and will create in their own country a lot of revolution almost, you know, because people don't agree. The poorer people in Germany say, me first, you know?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
What can we do?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I was reading sort of like a progress report on the Syrian refugees in Germany, and although Angela Merkel says yes, we can do it, we can accept refugees, you know, she's not checking with life conditions on the ground. Mm. She's not checking whether the German culture can absorb. They're expecting as many as 1.4 million refugees to be in Western Europe. The example is what's happening with in Hamburg. Hamburg, Germany. It's you know, someone was saying the city had a housing crisis before it could absorb any more people from Germany. Period. And all of a sudden, it's a port city, and all these refugees are coming in, and the German police or authorities are resorting to taking possession of empty commercial properties to make them into temporary housing. The German people went up in arms when you know, the authorities wanted to build refugee accommodations in a park. So there are ideals of, yes, we can do this, yes, we can, you know, for the Germans, redeem ourselves, or you know, however you want to phrase it, accommodate human emergence, humanitarian values, but that takes long-term planning. That is not something that you want to aspire to in a case of emergency. You arrange for emergency measures first, and something as big as accommodating, you know, 1.4 million refugees requires a long-term plan, which Germany hasn't thought of. So they're beginning to see that
on the other hand, emergency is emergency, and you know, if the other countries, as you said before, take over half of their population as refugees, a million or something for Germany is not really a whole lot. We are 60 or something millions, or 80, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the people are there, and they have to be fed, and they have to be housed. And I think what you are talking to, that's my personal idea, is that there is in Germany a big clash between green and blue, because we are quite ethnocentric in many ways.
Yeah.
And then there is the green idealism, and they have no reality check. They are, you know, sort of voodoo thing often, you know. And we have in the party, in the government for a long time, green people. And there was at the beginning, when I still was in Germany, I remember the fights between the Realos and the Fundis, you know, the fundamentalists in green and the ones who try to be more real. But the tendency of the green parties and people who are in this mindset is not to take into account well what their ideas mean. I am personally in favor, because I know that Germany has taken a lot more refugees from the Balkan, no?
Balkan countries,
when the war was there, and they are almost all gone back. So I think it's really to find a way to accept these people. And I'm sort of going from one thing to the other. You know, somebody said, why don't you give to the people who are refugees a place where nobody else wants to go? You know, here in Italy, the villages in the mountains, and allow them to create their own space, and that they have also something to do, because the thing with the refugees in Germany is they cannot work. They have to be without doing anything, and this creates depression, and it creates, you know,
and crime.
And crime.
Yeah.
So there is something wrong in the way of accepting people, but for me, not in the fact that they accept people.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. Okay, so?
Neri?
Yeah, well, I just want to add another player, which I see some blue in it, which is Iran.
Yeah.
Iran is very influential on a lot of things, and in their culture, you know, they can build atom bomb. They have capacities in them, and building the blue capacities in this Mediterranean environment. Somehow Iran have the most potent player that can bring it in. With all the problem that I see in it, I also see this. I don't know how it can play in, but they have this kind of capacity that we don't see it in other places. I think even not in Russia. I think Iran has more healthy blue in it than Russia. This is as I.
That's very true. When I went to Russia, I saw oligarchs that are centered in red. And when I went to the international trade show in Kurdistan, I saw many things manufactured in Iran and many things manufactured in Turkey. So they're dominating the scene, Iran and Turkey.
What's next for the region, you're absolutely right, Neri. What's next for the region is Iranian-style blue.
No, I can't say that.
Yeah,
well, I have problem with it myself, but
because they still hide behind
it's a
the theocracy. Yeah.
No. It's not. It's secular blue, the way Asisi is doing it in Egypt.
But I think the difference is Egypt is a great example. I think the difference that you just drew to there, Neri, is the difference really between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam. Most of the Sunni values that are coming, the Islamic values that are coming out of Saudi Arabia, are primarily driven by the Wahhabi doctrine of Orthodox Islam. The Quran is the source of everything that informs your life. The Shia don't believe that. The Shia they believe that Imam Ali is the successor of Prophet Muhammad. So they're allowed to interpret, and as a result, they moved away from the strict interpretation of that closed religious blue to a system that allows them to interpret, that still allows them to integrate challenges from life conditions into call it a fatwa. I mean, fatwa is a bad name, but the Iranian fatwas are far less dangerous than what's coming out of imams in Saudi Arabia.
In Sunni.
Yeah. So and Iran is the first Arab, the first Muslim country to establish the Islamic Scientific Foundation. They've reestablished that maybe 10, 15 years ago, and about the only scientists that are contributing papers that are considered scientific are the Iranians. So on the movement towards the orange, that stage where it says, oh, I have a portfolio, I have other concerns like, development of my own culture than a scorched earth strategy. So that the road to get there, for sure, the Iranians are far further along on that than any other Arabs. The closest after that will be Egypt, But Egypt is doing it bits and pieces, following in the wealth pattern as the Gulf, which does not develop your full blue system of institutions.
Mm-hmm. So should we in the West be in some way supporting Iran in its attempts to
I think the contract that Obama did with Iran is the worst thing ever that happened, because Iran is not gonna respect the letter of the law in the contract.
Surprise!
Yeah, it really is the lesser of the two evils, Mark. So I'm not sure. Neri, I have concerns, buddy, about Hezbollah being more powerful than it is just 10 miles from your border.
Yeah.
And the Iranian trainees and Cuban trainees now are pouring into Syria under the safe cover of the Russian military. These are people who are using Shia Islam as a mechanism to reignite the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just another tool that they use, and of course the Iranians are looking at this and saying, oh yeah, absolutely, we'll use anybody's who will help us advance our agenda. So
they'll have more money to spend on Assad and more money to spend on Hezbollah. When Israel bombed Hezbollah in 2006, they rebuilt it in no time.
Yeah.
But with Iranian money.
Yeah. Most of the bridges and the infrastructure that was destroyed by Israel in Shia areas were rebuilt with Iranian engineers and workers within 6 months. There are still bridges that are in areas that are government controlled that are still in shambles. That's how weak the Lebanese government is, and that's how strong a blue organized system that is a subsystem of Lebanon's system is dominating. I mean, people want Hezbollah to collect their trash.
Yeah.
Because they have capacities to do that. They're just looking for a blue system. They're looking for a blue mechanism that everybody else has failed to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
So when I try to sense a little bit in what we are talking, I get a sort of a oppressed feeling. It sounds like we are going back to Middle Ages or something.
Well,
pretty much so.
They picked up the trash in the Middle Ages. Nobody.
You're not living in Tel Aviv, so they can't not aim on you.
Just throw it out the window.
So what is your idea? What shall we do? Just wait until they kill each other, or they kill us, or what? I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's
Well, it's a dynamic system. It's a dynamic system. The Iranian cannot stay in their situation. Well, there's no guarantee that they'll change in time before they bring disasters on others.
Right.
But when they have those capacities, they have those capacities to evolve.
Yes, yes.
So it's like, there are humans as us eventually.
Yes. And I think here's the key to the Shia aspect of this. Because of the strong blue structure, if the current Ayatollah in Iran says, okay, enough, we're not doing this, it is obeyed throughout the structure. Anything that Iran supports, if they tell Hezbollah to stop this, that is a strict blue structure and it will stop. Sunni Islam does not have that. Sunni Islam is a distributed purple-red system that if an imam issues a fatwa in Egypt to attack Sinai, that's independent from an imam issuing fatwa in Pakistan saying attack the Indians. There is no central command for a Sunni system, and therein lies the problem. And my reasoning for why Iran has a better chance to to manifest a blue system in Islam than Sunni Shia.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, what is the West to do? You know, this nuclear agreement with Iran may not be honored by Iran for long. They will probably do what they want. But I see an attempt to engage them in a positive way. There's some good behind that, even though Obama may be the only one abiding by the treaty.
Yeah. Well, Neri, give us your feedback. What's the reaction to the nuclear deal in Israel?
Well, in general, the line from the left and the right, and sorry I'm using this term, but from the left and the right in Israel is against the deal. It's very clear that the deal lets Iran get more money, and the money will spend against Israel. In Lebanon, in the West Bank, in Gaza, so it's really clear. There was some news a year or two ago about a huge amount of money invested in plans of attacking Iran. So those Israelis have some plan to fight. They will not go easy. Yeah. But there is some kind of fear and general fear of Hezbollah and other things. But there are, you know, but now it's like we have this kind of Iran crisis and Palestinian crisis playing the external attack all the time on us.
Hey, they talked about a third Intifada. What's happening in Jerusalem?
Well, this is very interesting. I'll try to put it in short. In the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we got a very strong aggression, usually from young guys. They take a knife.
And Hamas is supporting them as well.
Sorry?
Hamas in Gaza is supporting them.
Yeah. It's like across the line, but you know, I'm trying to look at the change. You know, when they have this, like Gaza was waiting for it all the time, so it is supported from the top. But in Israel, we see it's not really central organized. The claim right now is it organized through Facebook, guys sending messages to each other, and create this attack atmospheres. From one side, it is very violent and unpleasant. The people here really feel uncomfortable with it. As usual, there are more Palestinian dead than Israeli dead, but it is very uncomfortable. People fear. They really have fear. And there's aggression. It's opened up the aggression against the Palestinians. It's interesting that they... Yeah, okay. It's interesting that they use the Al-Aqsa Mosque issue.
Yeah.
Because, well, in Israel, nobody talk about it, but there was a progression, like the settlers movement. One of their ideas, they have a ultra settlers movement who were thinking to get back to build the holy place on the Holy Mount, which means that what is there need to go away. And there's some of the ministers in the Israeli government are claiming that. Okay. Israeli don't talk about it. They say, well, we don't have any plan to it. This is what they say right now. But I would say to Bibi that he lies too, not only the Palestinian lie. He lies too about it, because this movement exists and it's get political power and support from the government. And here comes the good part from my interpretation from the guys in ISIS, because the knife is a mean symbol. The young guys take this symbol and attack, and Israelis don't really have a way to manage it. The only way to manage it is to fall back in the position that say, well, we don't want to take the Al-Aqsa months, and they actually, I hope, succeed to push, to weaken the settler movement in Israel through this action. I'm sorry about the dead and all the other aggression, but this is the dynamic. Yeah. So there is some kind of a chance and potential. So this kind of Third Intifada will end up with changes within Israel power and weaken the settler movement, because it really sent a clear message that the settler movement cannot succeed without this constant aggression. The settlers, of course, using it. They say, well, you see the Arabs, they are lying, they stab us, they all want to kill us. But I think that the way I read the people and the papers, I think that the Israeli mind start to get these ideas. I hope that I read enough spectrum to see it right, but I think this kind of a change can come up out of this situation and hopefully end up with working towards this Palestinian state, where we know they have capacity problem, we know that, but with the stresses in the Arab world, Sisi relationship, and even Arab Saudi, I think we can have a step forward, which means that the settlers of the ideas will need to close. Like you cannot dream, or you cannot get your whole dream. And eventually, progress in the Palestinian-Israeli relationship will weaken the Hezbollah. You see, I'm very positive and optimistic.
Yes.
I'm really
weaken the Hezbollah.
We just need a new Ayatollah in Iran. That's all, Neri.
You know, the problem is that they don't think like that. The reality is not working with this kind of mindset. So we can sit down and explain it and hope that this kind of mindset will some way get to the minds of the people that have power and able to move money and power through the region. But that's natural. That's the nature of things. We need to go with it for now.
Well, Neri, I'm really happy to hear your view. You know, we look so hard for some hopeful directions, and in the midst of all of this, you've managed to find some. And so that's grateful to hear that. You know, we are now at 8 o'clock, which was our scheduled end time, but we did start a little late. So if people can stay a little longer, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm posting on the event page. I have scheduled a blab where everybody can come in, just hop in and hop out again. And I'm posting on the event page the URL. So who of the watchers wants to come in and share with us their ideas and their hopes and fears and whatever there is. Please do it in about 20 minutes, let's say. Yeah. And what you need is a Twitter account, and then it's easy. You just click if you want to come into the room. 4 people at a time can come in, and somebody hops out when you have done.
If we get tired, we'll hop.
I know you wanted to share some thoughts.
Well, I was intrigued. I'm reading your book, too, and I recall you mentioning this, and you mentioned it in a post today, that you were talking about wild cards and how that might fit into what we're talking about today. You use the example of Katrina being the wild card that exposed the weaknesses, the ineptitude of federal institutions in America, FEMA especially, as well as the Bush regime, shall we say. And I wanted to be sure that you had an opportunity to expand on that a little today before we end.
Yeah, I was more directing my thoughts to really the structure of the EU and the entire integration process, and it seems like the big banner says we are a unified Europe with similar values. And anybody can make that declaration, or the federal government can say FEMA is ready for any disaster, and you get a wild card like Katrina, and the truth comes out. Dr. Beck is famously known for saying the best place in a crisis is the hard truth, and so look for a crisis to determine how accurate the statement is about whether Europe is fully integrated, whether they have common values and shared values. And this is a crisis. This is something that no contingency plans were made for in Europe, and you're beginning to see how the Hungarians are acting differently, how everybody that's the Greeks, everybody on the Turkish border where all these refugees are coming from, are reacting to this differently than Western Europe, than Germany. And
even
France.
the super green Danes are saying no.
Yeah. And what the interesting conversation that's coming up now, Mark, is that everybody is looking at Turkey, and they're saying, why are you letting all these refugees cross through your borders? You have to do something about that. And Turkey is saying, well, welcome back to the table. We've been wanting to join the EU now for 30 years, and you've said no. How about that?
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity. We'll send millions of refugees unless you let us into the European Union, which is a whole entire conversation about letting a Muslim country, and you can see with Erdogan, he followed in the same footsteps as Putin in manipulating power to make sure the constitution is amended to allow him to be king forever. He did that, and his philosophies are getting more. I mean, this is one of the most progressive Muslim countries, non-Arab, but you can see how his becoming more of a traditional Islamic. It's not as radical as Saudi Arabia, but he's relying more on the Muslim element instead of being strictly a secular Turkish government. And so that is a concern that the Europeans should consider and shouldn't cave in to the pressure that we will allow more refugees to cross to Europe, and they allow them membership into the EU without properly assessing the mimetics that are driving Turkey today and how well they integrate into European culture. A lot of dynamics going on that need to be examined before a declaration, like the one that Merkel made, and we can do this. Let them come. Well, assess your capacities to let them come first before you make a statement.
And
like that.
Merkel is refusing to have Turkey as an EU member because the center of gravity of the Syrian refugee is red and unhealthy blue. So the Syrian refugees are flooding Germany, and they're going to change the DNA of Germany. They have a different value system than the social democracy in Germany. Social democracy is green, and they have a red center of gravity and unhealthy blue. Merkel has to surround them with blue systems, rule of law, everybody is equal under the law. She has to surround them with a blue system in order for them to fit into the German culture.
And this will be a big challenge, but I think a healthy challenge.
Yes.
To reintroduce blue and to safeguard the values and not allow, in a sort of green idea, everybody can do what they want, not tolerate.
Because green does not see red, does not see victims.
No. Yeah, they blame blue on their victimization. So they, instead of blaming the Syrian regime, they're blaming the European institutions that will, look further into why we should look into why we should let in more refugees. So it's.
I think we made a mistake by killing Saddam. We need to keep Assad in power because he's protecting the Christians, especially.
Mm-hmm.
He's protecting the minority as much as he's a dictator or an autocrat.
Yeah.
He was protecting the minority. That's not to say that that's the ideal form of governance, but the alternative is ISIL.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in Germany, as I said, for me, it's the hope that Green will become grounded and get the senses together.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of secular blue forces in the Middle East which get picked off one after the other, because we think they're just the worst thing possible, and they're not the worst thing possible.
No, not at all. Arab nationalism was a form of secular blue, but it was too much ahead of their time that they brought ideas from nation states. They brought them to a tribal and feudal societies. They couldn't fit in.
They did a lot of German philosophy on what nations are, based on how Germany became a nation. They brought together German tribes, but German tribes are very congruent, and because based on that, you can create a nation. The Middle East is, the tribes are not congruent.
They had their philosophers, they had classical music before they got together in Germany.
Yeah, so you can't copy a Western model and hope you skip the life conditions altogether.
Yeah.
We are talking about blue, and I wanted to give a little bit of time still to the blue-shirted two men here. I saw Lawrence came up a while ago, and just allow you to...
Allow
to say yours and too, and then I would like to finish here and go over to the other platform. If you come with us, it's fine, really. Whoever wants to come there.
Okay.
So,
good.
Lawrence hasn't said anything.
All right, little bitty question. Hello, folks. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Mark.
So, I think I'll start straight to the question. You cited an unhealthy blue. How do you get an unhealthy blue healthy?
We create the habitat that surrounds them. We create the rule of law. We create institutions. We create from the egocentric, charismatic leader to the belief in institutions.
Well, that's fine, but how do you get people to want to do that? People who are unhealthy blue are committed to being unhealthy blue. How do you get them to be willing to change their minds to go to the healthy direction with healthy institutions?
By external pressure on the system, but you don't force them to. The blue system, I think I've said it before, there are a couple of posts on it. The transition from red to blue is the toughest transition. And it first manifests in a religious blue. And so that's where Iran is. Unfortunately, much of Sunni Islam is still a purple-red. Some of it is blue to the tribes, but it's not blue as a national thing that unites Sunnis. The Shia brand is, and it unites Iran with the rest of the Shia in the Middle East. So what you do is you tweak
in an unhealthy way.
In an unhealthy way, granted. But what you do is you start building pressure, like the nuclear deal. I would have put a lot of conditions on Iran. Their idea that they won't listen to any of it indicates that there's a lot of red behind that blue. But the minute they start violating the terms of the agreement, you hit them where it hurts. You impose, you pull away some of the strings that they were relying on the most. and say, aha, you violated that. You start introducing slight alteration to the initial blue content. The best example in this is not Iran. The best example of this is to look at how Dubai has transitioned into building blue institutions after the financial crisis. They were relying, before that, they were very passive. They just wanted money to come into Dubai and build it. Investors from all over the world, primarily from Russia and the rest of the Arab world. Red, red, red. Build it, I want to make my millions and get out. It doesn't matter what the consequences of that is. And that's what happened. Well, when it collapsed, when it all collapsed, the only thing that sorry, the phone is ringing. The only thing that was left was for the ruler to stop the hemorrhaging. Decided to start imprisoning CEOs of these companies that were left with billions of dollars of debt. That is how you deal with the old archaic Islamic trade blue. Okay. After a while, that started giving Dubai a big black eye, and then they realized that you can only imprison so many of these CEOs before no one wants to go to Dubai. So they started, because of the pressure, because of they've had a bad experience with you don't need blue, and then they realized the consequences of that. They started, so blue came in from the back door. Blue is not a sexy thing. And keep in mind that the Middle East has a preference to the sexy things, to the individualistic system, to the red, to the fake orange, and a lot of them think they're in second tier yellow. That's a lot of thinking. They just don't like, with the exception of purple, they don't like being caught up in the blue system. They pay lip service to the green system, but none of them, the most intelligent people I've spoken to in the Middle East, believe that individualistic values are what's going to make equal rights and humanitarian rights and all that manifest. Not a system that believes in institutions. And that is the challenge of the whole region, is that you have got to start addressing it somewhere. And Dubai is doing it the right way. They're introducing Commonwealth laws. They had experiences with the British. They're introducing English law into property ownership, into how you penalize someone who owes debt. And all that is beginning to incorporate something other than the original religious blue into that blue platform that builds institutions. It's a very slow transition, Lawrence, and it takes a long, long time to build. Israel was wonderful in doing it because they knew what the purpose of institutions were. The Arabs don't believe in that.
Yeah, well,
they have the capacity. We were never left with the capacities on know how to do it.
It sounds like what you've described is starting with an unhealthy blue and then taking red measures, power measures against them, having people reevaluate, and then possibly, hopefully, institutionalize healthier blue. But they've got to retreat from the unhealthy blue first, it sounds like.
I think a little bit it's like children and parents, Parents need to introduce the rules because otherwise the children are at a loss. And I think that's what we need. Maybe it's not, that's my idea, a red power to do that, but a red energy to do it from somebody who is a little bit wiser.
You hit it on you hit the nail on the head, Heidi. It has to be designed from a higher level. So the consequences are orange long-term effect, like the misguided decision by the West to introduce sanctions and give them they gave them a clear blue choice, either black or white. Either you don't engage in this or you get sanctions. That's one way to do it. There needs to be smarter ways of doing it. There needs to be a further quantification of what that punishment structure is like, and to them, you have to give them a 10% opportunity to alter their own blue. And if they see benefit from it, to invite them to engage more into building blue institutions. So it's not you react to red from red. You react to red on a false blue from a strategic place. That's where the indigenous intelligence comes in and tells you, aha, there's an opening in how you alter the existing blue with younger Iranians, for example, who listen to a specific imam who is approved by the Ayatollah, and you discover what that meme is, and you start empowering that meme. And it might not spread for another decade, it might not spread for another generation. That's how slow and arduous it's going to be for that transition to take place.
Mm-hmm. I would like now to wrap it a little bit up, but Said and also Elza, it would be wonderful.
Sorry, I also had to take this phone call. It's
okay. If we could do sort of a regular meeting once a month, once every 6 weeks, and talk about these things, how they develop, and we would love to have your viewpoints and also Neri, and it would be really nice to have the first-hand wisdom on these things. I don't know if you agree. We would be happy to do that.
It's a slow process. May take 10 years. May take a generation. But it would be a worthwhile project.
I'd like that a lot. I'd like to involve Neri in future discussions, and yeah, we're up to it once every 6 weeks, once every month or so. I'd also like to get someone, and Elza would know who to contact, who's on the ground in the Middle East. Elza visits there, and she holds her energy till she comes back home, but she comes back home to California, to walking on the ocean, and I'm not having to worry about the dangers to her life. So definitely Neri and someone on the ground, maybe in Syria or even our friend Nafiz, maybe he can engage. But yeah, that'll be a wonderful thing to have as an ongoing discussion, Mark.
If you send me your information, where we can, Neri or the other person say, then we can coordinate that and organize that.
Yeah, he's Elsa's point man in the West Bank. Neri knows him well. Yeah. She needs to talk to him first and make sure that he has the time and the commitment to want to do this. It's just one name that comes to mind. Maybe she has other people in mind as well. But yeah, it's definitely worth exploring.
Wonderful. And we have here Lawrence and Scott, and we are normally doing in Fridays the community integral living room, you could say, and or on Google Plus or on Blab. And we have created now a Blab, so where we can all talk together again, which is not an official event like this one, which so it's a little bit more
blabby,
yeah, and other people can join in easily, and that's what makes it so attractive. That we can have other people here. So at this point, I would close and thank you, everybody.
This has been great
being here. Yeah. Also, there was a time where I really felt a little bit, oh gosh. Thank you, Neri, for bringing it out.
Late start, but a wonderful conversation, I think.
Yeah. Let's start. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So we keep in touch, and I see we have quite a bit of viewers. They seem to be interested too, and contact us on the Wisdom Factory. Circle us, contact us directly, saying that you want to be in the special invite circle for these conversations, and you might even be with us in the first invite. Okay, so bye-bye for the moment, and see you over on the other platform.
Say bye to Elsa.
Yeah, the link. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.